March 10th, William Chalmers Burns. Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men. As a youngster, Burns had two goals: to have lots of money and to live in a grand house. So, he headed to Edinburgh to study law. But at university, when Burns was 17, he met Jesus, and his life changed. His new goal became to glorify God in all the earth. For 15 years, he preached revival in Scotland. Then, he served another 20 years as a missionary to inland China. Whether at home in Scotland or abroad in China, he was determined to take care of God's cause. To that end, on this date in 1853, he translated the first half of the Pilgrim's Progress into the Mandarin language. This is his story.
An obstacle can be viewed as an enemy or an adventure. It's your choice. In the winter of 1847, after weathering a fierce storm, William Chalmers Burns arrived on a hostile shore of South China, a war-torn area cloaked in spiritual darkness. No Christian friend greeted him. No European welcomed him. He was armed only with his Bible. The people were resistant of foreign religions, and the Western world considered the place an impossible mission field. The language required years of painstaking study to learn, and Burns only spoke broken Chinese. None of this deterred him, though. He was determined to see the Chinese people come to Jesus Christ. And when he got his first opportunity to reach into the darkness and pull the lost from the fires of hell, he was ready. Dr. Morrison, a fellow missionary, asked Burns to visit 3 Chinese criminals who had been sentenced to death for murder. The men had heard snippets of the gospel, but now, facing their deaths, were desperate for someone to tell them more about Jesus Christ and salvation. And Burns didn't hesitate. A man of great compassion, he took great pleasure in caring for those for whom few others cared, and to be a brother to the sorrowful, the outcast, and the forsaken. God had sent Burns to China for men just like these, and he visited them every day. In his broken Chinese, he desperately tried to convey the gospel, and the criminals, starved with spiritual hunger, strove to understand everything he was saying. But Burns had been learning the Canton dialect, and they didn't speak Cantonese. So Burns took another approach. He and the 3 men read Chinese scriptures together, their own dialect. He read slowly and learned alongside of them. As Burns picked up words in their dialect, they received the truth and devoured it. The long days in that stench-ridden prison were taxing, but little by little, the prisoners began to change. God's word took root in their hearts. They began to pray together. The convicts prayed in their own tongue, and Burns joined them, using whatever words he could. He later wrote in his journal, "I felt encouraged and enjoyed something of the power of grace in praying with and for them." And in answer to those prayers, God worked a miracle for one of the prisoners. The governor decided not to execute him. Nobody had expected Burns to be able to share anything in the language of the Chinese people for at least a year after his arrival. But God used his primitive understanding of their language to lead 3 needy men to the feet of Jesus, changing their destinies forever. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." In which area of your life is God calling you to persevere? An obstacle can be viewed as an enemy or an adventure. It's your choice.
Thank you for listening to today's story. Every day of the year, our hope is to inspire you with real-life stories of faithful men who have gone before us. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Join us tomorrow for another story at 365christianmen.com.